Okay, hello everybody. I've been informed that we are live. This is E. McNeil. I'm the developer of Ironlights. We're getting ready for our next minor league tournament. And I have a very special guest for the first time on the stream. We have somebody who is not me or Jeff. Please introduce yourself, Electro.
Hello, my name is Electro Spaghetti. I am one of the newer moderators on the Discord server, and I can't believe that I'm here.
It is good to have you, though. Yeah, so Electro is going to be helping me commentate. We're just going to be doing, a nice casual tournament here. This is one of our regular bi-monthly minor league tournaments. However, that's not to say that there are no stakes involved. The top 3 players in this round, of this tournament, are going to be winning $30 each and are going to get a ticket to the major league tournaments in the future. So there's something at stake here. We're still waiting for the brackets to get finalized and for the final check-ins to come in, but pretty soon the matches are going to be going out, and we're going to get started. So I am now going to send out the official tweet about this in 1 second. Awesome. Proximo tells me he's typing out the matches as we speak. I forget sometimes that you guys can't hear his side of the conversation, but we are getting news directly from God about what's going on here. And Proximo, you'll be announcing to the Discord, letting everybody know that this is getting started, right? Perfect. He says yes. All right. So while we wait for things to get started, I wanted to ask Electro to tell us a little bit about what he's been working on with regard to the new unofficial but very exciting guild system that's coming up.
Well, it started out of the blue, if I'm honest, where some people, I think it was specifically Blackman, came up with the idea of reintroducing them. I've heard that they've been a concept tossed around in the past. And yeah, Blackman made a guild, and then it was Attila who followed suit with Brothel making their own guild, and since then a couple of other guilds have popped up, but those two are the largest and most prominent right now.
So this is all being organized on the Guild Hub Discord server, which is now being linked from the main Ironlights server, if anybody's interested. And the idea there is anyone can go and join a guild, and the guilds are going to be hosting guild wars between them. Is that it?
In fact, the Royals and the Bears are having a guild war right now that we're trying to sort out whilst trying to build and sort out the server. But
Nice.
Seriously, major props to Sir Shield, who's the one who had the initiative to set up the guild hub in the first place.
Now, Sir Shield, that is also known as Thermal Turbo on the Discord. I believe he also helped set up some of our initial tournaments, actually, before we were running these official tournaments with the prizes and everything. So he's been involved with the community. I know he took a bit of a hiatus before the latest update. But
I think so, actually.
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that he's back.
Oh, that's someone completely different.
Oh, from Sir Shield?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Who am I confusing that with? He changed. Thermal Turbo is involved with the guilds. Is he one of the guild leaders?
No, he's just part of one of the guild. He's just a guild member right now.
Now, what is it that made me think that? Did he changed his name or something, right? Where did I see
don't know. He put his guild tag in his name, but past that, it's still Thermal Turbo.
Wow, I feel really dumb about that then. My bad.
I think, from what I heard, Sir Shield was like only a couple of days on the Discord before he made.
Sir Shield is Angel of the Samurais. That's listed as his. Yes, okay, I'm seeing that now. Yeah, I am pretty dumb here. My bad. Sorry, Sir Shield. I was giving credit to somebody else entirely.
But props to him for having the initiative to set it up in the first place. We've been discussing the rules, etc., how everything's going to work with the guild leaders. And currently, the plan we're going for is instead of every guild having a different server, and then because we've made a system where we have war moderators who decide the matches for the guilds instead of each guild arguing over who gets paired with what. We have a neutral third party do it. And we were thinking instead of having these people running between different guilds, we could just compress them all into a single server.
That
So
makes
I
a lot of
see our
sense.
first,
Yeah.
yeah, but now our first match is starting, so I
Yes,
think
it's
we
just
should focus
about to
on that.
start. Yeah, I don't see the usernames yet, but we'll be getting that started just as soon as they select their weapons and get into the game, I believe. Right now on the stream, I think we're seeing the current bracket, and it looks like we have we're set up for a good 5 rounds, I believe. So hopefully we'll get to catch all of those. And it looks now like the match is beginning between Not Ollie and the W. The W has been a feature in several of these previous tournaments. I know he's an established figure in the Ironlights competitive scene. Not Ollie is a relative newcomer, so we'll see how he does. And it looks like the W is taking the duelist class, whereas Ollie is showing up with the ninjas, with the dual katars. This is a pretty interesting setup because the duelist is one of the few classes with both the sword and shield who can block from 2 directions at once. So relatively well set up, I think.
Usually, ninja is a tricky class to block in general. However, the fact that Duelist is essentially on defense a similar dual wielding class, then it does sort of balance out, but Duelists still have a tricky time blocking ninjas like any other class.
Oh yeah, everybody's going to have a tough time, and we're going to see that right now as Ollie goes on his first attack, getting a little far forward there, but is able to land the hits because, yeah, as you say, even when you have 2 weapons to block with, you have the
Hard to
attacks
think
coming
in
from 2
two
directions
directions
at
at
once.
once.
Yeah, that is very tricky, and the Ollie lands just a ton of hits there. It looks like he's going to try out some of these ranged attacks for the harassment value.
I would actually say Ninja's greatest weakness is its ranged attacks, because either you hold it there and charge it up, and that uses a lot of energy, does a lot of damage, and has good speed, but your opponent knows exactly where it's going to be shot from, and
That's true.
roughly
There's
where it's
that little
going.
laser pointer that you can see, so it
Yeah.
does reduce the effectiveness of that. And the W,
And then
you see both.
on the flip side, Duelist has a very quick stab, which is usually very cheap and
Very
has
effective for those
yeah.
harassing attacks to bring down the opponent's energy, as we saw right there.
Mm.
But the W in that last attack is able to do enormous amounts of damage. So Ollie really has to make it up here. And without having a full bar of energy to work with, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to even out the health difference here. So the W is feeling very confident, goes for a big charge up and a big attack right here. And it looks like Ollie is, he was almost able to hold on. The W finishing that attack with only a sliver of energy left, but is able to pull it off, sheathes the rapier there very stylishly. And now both players, they're going to have to go online to communicate what the ban is going to be for this next fight. My guess, if I were Ollie, is I would try to get rid of that duelist and maybe give another try to the ninja if that's what he's confident with. Just because the duelist, I think, is, like I said, uniquely able to defend. So that's a tough matchup to start with. I have to say, I really like this view of the fight where we see the 2 shadows on the sunset map. Someday
Yeah,
I'm
the
going to have to get a
shadows
GIF
seem
that's capturing just that, that angle as they fight.
yeah, the shadows seem incredibly long, but beautifully so.
All right, so we have our second round starting now, and both players actually have changed up what they're working with. The W switching to the Reaper with that scythe, and Ollie's now with the Crusader with the flail and shield. This is going to be an interesting one because the scythe, because of that shape and the size of its blade, is able to get around the shield better than a lot of other classes that have more of the plain straight blade. Ollie's still able to get some good blocks in, though. And then on the flip side, Ollie's going to be able to use that tricky spinning flail, and it's going to be potentially very tricky for the W to block.
Both classes are quite similar in how they like to try to slip past the opponent's defense more than attack it head on.
Yeah, exactly.
However,
Unlike the
I would
knight,
also
where
say that both classes have a better chance of using their blades to block each other's weapons than they would against other classes because of said similarity.
right, yeah, they have that sort of element of trickiness and unpredictability, and like the great sword in contrast, you might have the strategy of just trying to break down the shield or the bar shield on for either player. But when it comes to these, I think they're going to be trying to avoid the shield to just not take the blocks. It does look like the W is able to land some really great hits, though, and Ollie charges up a little bit, takes some vulnerability, and the W capitalizes on it immediately. So now Ollie left without much energy, and even though the W has a ton of vulnerability, I don't know if he's going to be able to summon an attack long enough to finish it off. He's going to try, though. He does that quick charge up, which is interesting. The W doesn't have a lot of health left that's not vulnerability, so that he could charge up as well. But he might feel like he doesn't need it. Oh, a good little harassing ranged attack from Ollie, but the W charges up, tries to go in for the one big attack, and lands the hit. Gets that great overhead headshot and puts the match away. Oh, what a stylish pose at the end there. I have to say that's sometimes my favorite part of these matches is people are just showing off striking a pose at the end of it. So that means that the W is going to be moving on to the next round of the tournament. Unfortunately, not Ollie is now been pushed out of the tournament, but congratulations for participating. And honestly, that was a tough fight. The W, as I said, is a well-established player and not an easy matchup. So there's no telling how far Ollie would have gone if he'd gotten luckier with that first round. The seeds for the initial round are always randomized in these minor league tournaments. So sometimes you just get kicked out early with the bad draw. I'm hoping that we'll see Ollie again in the future so that we can see a little bit more play from him. Oh, Proximo corrects me to say that he has been trying to do some of the seeding based on the ranks that are reported by the players. So I'm sorry, I'm not giving enough credit to Proximo on that one. Nevertheless, though, that is a tough first round.
I do feel for Ollie, though, given that I myself have lost in a more frustrating way where I went out the one minor league I've entered, I went out first rank to a diamond 1 when I'm only a gold 1. I can understand that the matchmaking system can't be perfect, but it can be frustrating when you get kicked out
Oh,
incredibly
for sure.
early just because of who you're
But
fighting.
I think that is kind of the deal with tournaments. The setup here. We have the in-game system where you can try to sort of climb through the ranks and get fight after fight and prove yourself over time. But at a certain level, the only way that you're going to be able to tell who's ahead is through these tournaments. And so, they can be very brutal, very ruthless in this sense. It looks like we're able to hop into a new fight just to catch sort of the tail end of it. It looks like this one is between Lost Goldfish and Nick Carpix. I can't say I know either of these players. In fact, I'm not 100% sure they're in this tournament. But I'm still interested to see how this fight goes, just because all Ironlights fights are great. Okay, Proximo confirms that they are. It's sometimes tricky just because the Discord usernames are different from the in-game names. So it looks
I'm
like
looking at the matchmaking, I'm looking at the brackets right now, and I believe the Discord names are Brennan and Nick.
got it. Okay, so Nick, that makes sense to me. Brennan must be Lost Goldfish. Looks like we have a knight versus a monk fight here, and the monk is getting some great hits. That's Lost Goldfish Brennan shooting those great hits with the ranged attack there, the bow and arrow. And it's really tough, I have to say, for the knight to block some of these.
The bow does a lot of damage and it's very fast, but has an issue of being it has an issue of being very expensive on its projectile cost, so usually when both players are able to land multiple hits, the monk is the one that struggles because of the greater cost of its projectiles.
That's true. It can be very expensive. In this case, I think what we saw was Lost Goldfish avoiding hits for long enough that he was charging up his energy fast enough that he just felt like he could keep shooting. He was able to regain that energy as fast as he was losing it and keep up a steady stream of hits. So it looks like he's switching now to the Scythe on the Reaper. Probably that's Nick banning out that Monk because we saw it was so effective. So now we have this interesting matchup of Reaper versus Knight. The Reaper has the advantage of having that huge blade and, again, able to sort of sneak past defenses. But the Knight does have a pretty good ability to break through the Reaper's shield on the Scythe. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes over the course of the match. Looks like... Oh, go ahead.
Usually, the one thing I see the most about when people talk about Knight is that it's quite the shield breaker class, where it just devastates all shields. But then again, if you can feint right, it looks like you don't even need to bother trying to break the shield.
Yeah, in this case, he was able to get some fantastic hits in on Nick. Hits on Lost Goldfish, even before breaking down the shield entirely. But yeah, I mean, with the Reaper, that some people refer to that class as a glass cannon, somebody who's all about the offense and not about the defense. And as long as Nick is able to keep up the defense and avoid taking hits, he's going to be in a really good place, I think, to get consistent damage every time he does his attacks, especially when he charges up the energy for these longer melee attacks that have time to break through the shield. Ooh, a great two double headshots right there, even without vulnerability. The damage that the Knight is outputting here is really incredible.
I would almost argue that the Knight can do as much, if not more, damage than Reaper, just because the fact that it's essentially at double damage all the time because two blades. And usually, if someone misses one blade, they'll miss the other.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get some really fantastic hits, and I guess that's sort of the disadvantage. Like, the Reaper has the advantage comparatively of that big blade sticking out to the side that you can sneak around the defenses. But if you're able to get through with the single, straight blade, or these dual blades side by side with that Knight, it's going to be more damage. So it looks like that was the first and second round we were able to catch, and so now we're going to get to see the third and final round of this matchup. And interestingly, Lost Goldfish is switching over to the Samurai.
Oh, a Samurai mirror match.
Oh, I have to say, mirror matches are my favorite. I think in some games you want to see more variety, see how like different asymmetrical advantages stack up against each other, and that's always interesting. But there's something that I just love about the purity of these mirror matches, where it's just two swords. You know that they have the same abilities, and it's just a question of who's able to use it better. Oh, and Nick, I think, was doing something interesting there, where it looked like those first few attacks were a little slower, more methodical, and then he kind of switched to doing like much faster, maybe trying to sort of lull Brennan into a false sense of security there. And Goldfish is now going in for his own attack. So let's see how this finishes off.
Oh, that looks like a hell of a lot of lag.
Yeah, it does look like these players are getting a fair amount of lag, unfortunately. A lot of the time, that's an issue with the network stability on one or both players. Just if you start losing packets, then the game has a hard time keeping up. There's only, unfortunately, a limited amount that we can do to compensate for that if you're losing packets in the middle of it. If a player drops out entirely, the game sort of freezes in a way. It stops, people stop taking damage. It waits for things to catch up. The lagged out player stops regaining energy. But there's only a limit on how much you can do with that. So hopefully, right now, it looks like the lag issues have mostly resolved themselves, at least temporarily.
I will say, though, out of all of the ranged attacks in the game, the Reaper has the coolest looking.
The Reaper or the Samurai?
Samurai, sorry. There's a lot of I mean, I think it's a natural with the class, but it's just there's a lot of cool gifts you can pull off just by just whipping it out, just having it by your side, and then just whipping it out with a ranged attack.
Oh yeah, I've heard people say it feels very anime, which I can't say I actually watch enough anime to take credit for that connection, but I get what they're talking about. There's something very fun about like just swinging a ton of hits and then all of them landing at once. Um, it looks though like Nick. I have to say, it feels like he has this in the bag with that health and energy advantage. It's just a matter of when he wants to take his attack. Goldfish is trying to keep on pressure with these continuous ranged attacks, but there's not much he can do right now, just because uh, Nick is has that advantage, and he
I
goes
would
in to
also,
put it away.
hmm, I would also say that Samurai is also the class with the easiest way of retaliating with its own ranged attacks, while the other side is attacking with their own.
In terms of like being able to just throw a quick like retaliatory strike if try to
Yeah,
interrupt the other player.
yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean. The duelist can probably fire quicker, but you need to take more time to aim those attacks. So I feel like it doesn't have the same like quick striking ability that you see on the samurai. Um, okay, so that was our the second round one fight that we were able to watch there. Um, Nick looks like takes it 2-1 versus Brennan, but we saw in that first round some of Brennan's skill, and was really able to put out a convincing win there. If I had had to guess after that first round, I would have said that Brennan had a serious advantage. So it was interesting to see how that turned out. Congratulations to both players, and we will be seeing Nick moving on and maybe see him in some of the later rounds in this tournament. Okay. I'm looking at the Twitch chat. If anybody wants to post questions on there, I will be happy to talk about it. Boy Gabe One asks, Devs, what's your favorite guild so far? I do not take sides. I'm sorry. I'm going to be boring like that. But Electro, you want to talk about your favorite guild?
I will be honest, there's not much going on in the guilds past a more condensed group of people to get information from, or to or to essentially be as with in part of a war.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, also as a neutral third party trying to organise the wars, I have to also say I don't particularly have a favourite.
That is an admirable position to take. All right, we'll have to table that thought for now because we are jumping straight into the middle of another match. This one between somebody's mom, also known as Live Free or Defly. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, but one of our other mods on the Discord. First is Numo. I'm going to go with that, or Noimo.
I go with Numo myself.
Numo 500. Somebody's mom on the duelist having a big advantage right now in terms of the health. Numo, I think, sort of on their back foot, running out of energy, but trying to take advantage of the attack opportunities they have, and is able to actually block that, not losing too much in terms of vulnerability. Somebody's mom, though, only a little bit of vulnerability left on them. So if Numa wants to take advantage of it, they have to go in fast. Only a couple hits left, I think. They have to really make a great amount of damage with this final attack. And they're able to land a few hits there, but somebody's mom keeping up the defense and is able to handle it and is now going to try to put it away. Ooh, stepping forward a little far there, almost took out the last
I've
of their
lost
health.
the game to that. I have
Yeah, that
lost a
happens.
game to stepping too far forward right at the very end.
And taking a little victory bow. Congratulations, somebody's mom. Um, somebody's mom also has talked a little bit about on the Discord server about some of their extracurricular experiences and talked about doing some Roman reenactment work in the past, which I got to see. She shared some pictures of that and looked really cool. As another Roman history buff, I think that is pretty awesome. So maybe someday we'll get the gladius and giant, tower shield. Until then, looks like somebody's mom is using the very ahistorical scythe versus Numo's crusader. And And the scythe may not be a historically accurate weapon, but she's using it to fantastic effect here, getting around that shield, able to land some great hits and a clever ranged attack there to get 3 solid hits on Numo as they rush in. However, blocking, we saw this in one of the previous matches, again, blocking the flail with that relatively slow and cumbersome weapon, that is going to be tricky for somebody's mom. So Numo is able to land some serious hits and mostly even out the match.
So trying to do ranged attacks while the opponent is advancing is very tricky because of when the game cuts you off from being able to do them. But if you can do them, they can almost certainly hit and take your opponent by surprise for some good damage.
So fun fact for those who've not been around since, February, March, during the beta in that time, there was a lot of major changes that were made to the gameplay. One of them was increasing the period of time where you're not allowed to shoot a ranged attack. Basically, as soon as the enemy comes in for that melee attack, it cuts off your ability to shoot ranged. And the reason for that is shooting ranged attacks at the enemy as they were attacking became just an incredibly powerful strategy. It basically determined all of the fights. And the way it works now, in contrast, because as soon as they start the attack, you can't fire anymore, you basically have to be a little prescient. You have to be just, psychic. It's see when they're going to attack. And if you can predict it properly, you can get that really powerful hit like somebody's mom did here.
Ninja, once again, has it very easy because the shot is automatically fired if it's charged up when they advance.
Yes, which is not true of most classes. So yeah, that's a case where they're putting so much energy into it. We decided that it didn't make sense for them to just completely lose their investment and just make that shot disappear. So it gets automatically fired instead.
A lot of people, however, one strategy I found to counter that is because a lot of people might not have their shots pointed in the right direction or want to change it later. If you were to then advance to deliberately interrupt it at your own time, you can usually have a much easier time blocking it because you know exactly when it's going to happen.
That's absolutely that's sort of the second order strategy of that. And I feel a little guilty because in the time we were talking about the ranged attack strategy, somebody's mom has been demonstrating some of the things you can do with that, getting a couple of really interesting ranged attacks by shooting in multiple directions at once, and then coming in to attack Numo with the big melee shots from the scythe. The scythe does just a lot of damage per hit, even though it's only got the one blade. It tends to be one of the classes that can put out a lot of damage quickly. And again, you might have that big shield as the Crusader, but the scythe can sneak around it. So Numo putting up a really good fight there, keeping it even for most of the match. And I really thought was going to be able to sneak out a win there. But somebody's mom coming through and putting it away, taking the win, going to move on to our semifinals to the top 4. Whew. I wanted to say a quick hello to everybody who's watching on Twitch right now. I see you guys in the Twitch chat, and thank you for watching live. This will be video available later as a VOD as well. But it's always fun to have people watching live and provide sort of a studio audience for us. It looks like we're able to hop into another match in progress, also in round 2. This one between Wadey Chip, which is Chip on the Discord, versus Chiefy is the Discord name of this player. I will refer to them as Chiefy because I'm not sure how to pronounce as DiPaggio. Anyway, Chip taking a very strong advantage in the beginning here, and again we're seeing that matchup of Scythe versus Reaper, where the Scythe can, of Greatsword versus Scythe, Knight versus Reaper, where the Knight is able to land just enormous amounts of damage at once, and both players playing very aggressively with big charge ups. That's going to be very risky for Chiefy just because Chip is landing so much damage per hit.
Oh, getting really tricky with that Scythe blade though, as to where they're hitting.
Yeah, and Chiefy was able to make it into round 2. Was able to defeat Dire Devil in round 1. Sadly, we weren't able to watch that match, but definitely, is even though I'm not familiar with Chiefy's play, I haven't seen him in other tournaments. You know that if they've gotten this far, that they're not somebody to be trifled with. So I think this is, showing, yeah, Chip able to take a convincing win there with half health left, and the very aggressive, charge up heavy, high vulnerability play style is showing the skill ceiling is very high in this game. So even though you can be a player who wins most of their matches in the public games, who's got a really good rank in game, once you enter these tournaments, you're still going to be facing off against some seriously challenging players. And I think Chip counts as one of those.
Mm.
Man, I had another thought about that Knight versus Reaper matchup, but unfortunately it has escaped me. Technically, it's still morning in San Diego, so I'm just going to say that that's my excuse. I'm still waking up. Okay, looks like they're in for the second round here, possibly third round since we joined late. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like Chip has switched over to the Duelist, and that now we have Chiefy using the Knight. So trying to sort of turn that around, that incredible offense on the Knight. But this is definitely going to be a tricky fight since the Duelist now is the one that has that sort of speed and tricky style advantage, being able to sort of use a lot
But
of different
still,
methods.
Knight is often described as a shield breaker class, and Duelist is a shield class.
That's
So
absolutely
it could
right.
go
Yeah,
either way.
you can break through that buckler. It looks like Chiefy is also using the a sort of one-handed style on the greatsword, which is gives you more flexibility in real life with your movements, with a slight disadvantage on the speed of the weapon itself, and with the in-game physics. You do get a bit of a speed advantage holding it with both hands. And
The
yeah,
concept would be if you're not confident enough to use the maximum speed of the greatsword, you can play with one hand for a sacrifice of something that you won't get anyway.
that's true. And I think there is also room for a style on the Knight where you just want to have the flexibility that you get from being able to move both of your hands, wherever you want in real world space, because this is, a game that is played in 3D and VR, and the way you can move your body actually matters here. So right now it looks like, just wanted to say, the health situation was relatively even there, but Chiefy had a big disadvantage in terms of vulnerability. So Chip, I think, wants to take advantage of that. Ooh, Chiefy's still able to land a couple of big hits, though, keeping the health relatively even though Chip still is, in a slightly better position.
That buckler's looking very small though, so there might come a point soon where Chip is physically not able to block attacks.
Yeah, though I have to say that's one of the interesting, sort of aspects of the strategic landscape here. Oh, Chiefy just able to hold on. Chip's going to try to get that last hit in, though, put it away, and just manages to do it. If Chiefy had been able to block that, which is a tough thing to do when you're up against a Duelist, that would have meant he would be able to come back and try to charge up, get a little bit of energy left for a final attack with a lot of vulnerability on the line, and maybe have a chance to steal this win. But unfortunately, Chip is not going to give him the chance. Tries to be, very aggressive, and it pays off. So great game to both players. That was an interesting one to see, especially with the Chiefy able to keep the health relatively even through most of the fight. There's also, about the shield mechanics, there's an interesting dynamic where once you get to the sort of end game phase there, if both players are playing aggressively where they're charging up a lot and they're at low health, you enter a situation where the shield might be battered down quite a lot, but neither player, especially the Knight player, is unable to get enough energy to capitalize on it. If they're stuck just sitting back waiting for their energy to come back, that gives time for the shield to recharge on its own. And so that, I have seen, can sometimes be the death knell for the Knight player if they're able to break down the shield, but not fast enough that they're able to get damage after the fact, after the shield is gone. Still, Chip didn't have to worry about it. Is moving on to our semifinals. Congratulations to both of those players. So now we have somebody's mom, Chip, and the W, who we saw in our very first round of this stream, have all moved on to semifinals. And it looks like there's one more match in round 2 that is going to determine who goes to the semifinals. So we'll see what happens there.
I think this is. I
Go
think
ahead.
this is a good time for me to ask a question because that match just reminded me of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any sort of mechanic hidden away in the game's code that makes players survive hits with 1 HP? Because sometimes I swear that they always just end up surviving with a fraction and you have to get that last hit. It allows for some incredibly close and tense and exciting games sometimes.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it happens so often I'm suspicious.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know a lot of games do something like that, but I swear to God, there is nothing like that in Ironlights. Every time that you see somebody just barely surviving, that is entirely organic. I think, honestly, part of the effect I think might have something to do, literally, with the shape of the health bars, because you'll note that if you ever, when you see the health bars on screen, you're not seeing it right now, but they're sort of angled. They're like rhombuses where the sides are angled, and yet the bar itself moves as a straight vertical perpendicular line. And so what ends up happening is as you get down to those final few percent of your health bar, it looks like it's getting smaller and smaller, like it's just a teeny sliver, just a pixel of health. And I think it makes it feel even smaller than it actually is. But I don't even know if that's enough to explain it. I think, I can tell you there's nothing in the code or the way that it displays the health that is designed to present, to produce that situation. That's just something that tends to happen organically.
I'll take your word for it.
I have heard, that like there's a thing that I heard in game design discussions once where they were talking about like let's say that you had an enemy who could hit you and they were supposed to be able to kill you in 4 hits, and you had 100 health points. How much damage should they do per hit? And most people's answer is 25, because 25 times 4 is 100. But the correct answer is 33. They should do 33 damage with each hit, so that after 3 hits, they've done 99 damage and you're down to 1 health, because that feels more dramatic. So yeah, that kind of thing of trying to leave just a sliver of health for the sake of the drama, that's a thing in game design. It is not a thing in Ironlights, though. They've never implemented anything like that. Kai in the Twitch chat says, of course, E would lie and say it's not in the code. I'm on to you, E. I'm not lying, but I guess I can't really do anything to convince you of that from here. So in your head, Kai, it shall forever remain a mystery or a conspiracy, whichever is more entertaining. But yeah, sorry. Okay, so Proximo is telling us that we have a semifinal coming up now. We're going to be watching Chip versus the W. That's going to be an exciting one. We've gotten to see both of them play and see their victories that brought them to this point. Real quick, in the meantime, somebody's mom in the Twitch chat asks, E, how do you feel about fish tacos? This is surprisingly a relevant question because we both live in San Diego, which is famous for its fish tacos. The answer is there's several fish taco restaurants that I really like, but I don't like seafood. And so they're wasted on me. So I'm sorry, it's a bit of a tragic answer, but there you have it. And now I think we're just waiting for Chip and the W to join in. Before we did, Electro, I wanted to ask you a question about your experiences. You've done several of these tournaments, is that correct?
We actually done one.
One tournament.
Yeah.
What was it like? I've never actually participated in an official tournament.
Incredibly anxiety-inducing. And then I went out first round, so I can't say much.
That's fair. I hope it's anxiety-inducing in a good way. the sort of excitement of a match that feels like it has stakes to it.
Yeah, just the wanting to perform well and then unsure if you actually can or not to the expectations others are hoping you can too.
Oh yeah. I think that's one of the tough things about these sort of competitive skill-based style games. You're going to end up with tournaments that really kind of lay it all on the line, and there's not a whole lot of sort of emotional cushion left in these matches, so it tends to count for a lot. And here we have our first semifinals match between Chip and the W, doing a mirror match with the Duelist, which is secretly my favorite matchup in the game. I just love the sort of fencing look that we get here. And this match matters because as a semifinals, whoever wins this is going to be locked in to win the top three to get that $30 prize and a ticket to the major leagues. The loser will be going to a third place match where they'll still have one more shot at getting that prize. So yeah, both players are going to fight for this big time. And the W comes in with a big melee attack, has a lot of energy, and does a cool little spin at the beginning there.
He appears to be very bouncy and dancing, but his sword play certainly proves he has the reason to be cocky.
That was a very solid attack. It looks like he was able to get some serious damage done on Chip, who we saw just in the last stream match is a very competent and skilled player in their own right. Looks like Chip is shooting some of these ranged attacks, trying to sort of do some harassing damage. And now comes in for the melee attack. Only has about half a bar of energy, but is able to land at least one headshot. Let's make that two. To slip around the W's defenses. But the W, it looks like, is feeling very confident, has a full bar of energy, and throws their shield off to the side. That doesn't really matter on attack, but it's possible that they're inviting Chip to do a no shields match.
I was awfully when I first saw the matchup, I was just thinking, just if they don't throw away their shields, I'm going to be slightly disappointed.
Oh, not me. I feel like that, sword and
Oh, they
buckler,
have.
that's cool in its own right. But it looks like Chip has dropped their own shield and may have accepted that invitation, so maybe you got your wish. The W, though, is starting off, this new phase of the round with a serious advantage, and Chip takes a little harassing hit from the W, cutting off their energy production, meaning that they're very much on their back foot. The W has a big attack advantage here. Man, if I was Chip, I'd take that shield back, I think. This is a tough situation to be in. Ooh, the W getting very tricky, trying to do a very stylish, two very
Trying to do
stylish finishing hits. But the Chip is not going to take it, and actually does a very cool little cheeky ranged attack there, landing a hit on the W. But the W goes in for that neat little seppuku style finishing attack and puts it away. So first round goes to the W. Congratulations. Man, I was so excited at the end of that match that I was spinning around in my office chair absent-mindedly, and now I am dizzy. So I feel very dumb again. Whew.
got a new chair recently, and it's also spinny. So after sitting in a static chair for over 10 years, it's a bit of a change. And now you've made
Oh,
me want to spin around in it.
try it. It's great, except for the dizziness. All right, going into round two, the W on the Reaper now, and Weighty Chip has switched over to the Knight. Man, that is an interesting move. Both players have changed. I'm guessing that the W had the Duelist banned so that they couldn't use it again. But Chip probably feels pretty good about that choice of the Knight. Was able to the W was able to block most of those attacks, but blocking with the shield is, can only get you so far when that shield gets whittled down. So, I think Chip might be feeling pretty good about their situation here with this matchup. And Chip does a little bit of a a charge up there, just a quick little tap on the charge up, maybe trying to bait out an attack, but then the W doesn't take the bait, so Weighty Chip goes in and lands some big hits. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Hey.
the W takes almost an entire bar of vulnerability to get that energy back up, and now is going to go in. Every time that a player does damage, they heal back a little bit of that vulnerability. So possibly the W thinks that they can get most of it back, or do just enough damage to Chip that this attack is worth it. And that was truly a lot of damage. It's going to be very tricky, I think,
Going in
to
for the
handle that.
finish. I
Yeah,
have noticed that this matchup in particular has appeared multiple times across the tournament now, but I think this is a role reversal of
yeah.
the Reaper winning for once.
I mean, I think Chip made a good strategic decision, and sort of from the metagame rock paper scissors perspective, has to be feeling good about being able to come in with the Knight versus the Reaper. But the W has taken just an incredibly aggressive stance here, and was able to take out enough energy production from Chip. Is able to do so much damage, take down their health early, that Chip wasn't able to respond to it. Just couldn't have time to build up the energy necessary. So the W is able to take round two. That was just an interesting match from the in round strategic perspective of how the players are using energy, how they're attacking, when they're charging up, etc. I think that's just an interesting layer to the game. That's something that was deliberately designed in, and the W really used it to the maximum extent there. So the W will be moving on. Chip is not out of the game yet, though. They'll be moving on to the bronze match of this tournament and still have a shot at winning the prize. So congratulations to the W, but we have not seen the last of Chip.
I just want to say quickly that I'm currently just still occasionally looking at what's happening in the Discord chat, and I'm seeing a Mr. Far From Perfect asking about who the other commentator is, which is indeed me, as Proximo has responded. And I just want to say a quick thank you to him, because out of everyone, he's been the one who's been most interested when I've been streaming Ironlights games, and he's been asking for me to go back and tweak certain things like adding in timestamps, etc. So I just want to say a quick shout out to him for that.
That's awesome. And I think, you said, yes, it's me, because Proximo mentioned you in the Discord, but we should repeat it here for anybody who's watching live. My co-commentator is one of the mods of the Discord who volunteered to join me here, Electro Spaghetti. So thanks to Electro for joining me and helping commentate today.
Honestly, I only got my headset like 3 months ago for my 18th birthday. And if you'd have told me then that it would flip my life upside down and this is where I would be, I would have never believed you. Because I've gone from being somebody who's in lots of Discord servers but is essentially a nobody lurker to running an unofficial server, running an unofficial extension, and being a well-recognized person on the official one, to the point where they want me as a moderator.
Well, you are the one doing us a favor there. So honestly, thank you for your help. Everybody who helps moderate, and honestly, everybody who's posting on the Discord or participating in the community, it means a lot to us, because, from our perspective, we make a game and put it out in the world, and with most games, it kind of disappears into the ether. Nobody cares. To see people actually engaging with it and doing stuff like making content for it or setting up a guild system, that's honestly very validating and invigorating for us. So I truly appreciate it. And I wanted to dovetail off of the shout out you gave to Mr. Far From Perfect on the Discord. He is another member of the community who I have noticed. He posts a lot in the Ask the Devs channel with some really, really high quality suggestions and comments. And I noticed he always posts very articulately and respectfully, sort of like, I remember several like sort of long form, or I say long form, but like a couple paragraphs comments discussing the ranking systems in the games and things that could be done to improve that, and they've all been really high quality and really helpful. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that. Okay, I also wanted to respond real quick to somebody's mom who is posting in the Twitch chat. Two things. First, they said, "Okay, boys, here I go." It looks like they're going to be coming up next in our semifinals versus King Charizard, who has defeated opponents in round 1 and 2, was able to defeat Nick, who we saw play earlier, and is now fighting in the semifinals. So I'm looking forward to watching that fight. But also, somebody's mom is correcting me when I said that they live in San Diego. They said they used to live there, but are now in New Hampshire. So I need to send her the fish tacos. I don't know how well they would travel in the mail, but otherwise I would be happy to. Also, New Hampshire is a beautiful state. I went to college there. I love that place. New England's amazing. Boy Gabe 1 in the Twitch chat asks, when did you come up with the idea of Ironlights? I actually posted in the Ask the Devs channel on the Discord about a week ago or so, a whole little history of when Ironlights kind of came to be, because there was, I actually went onto I have like a Google Doc where I keep track of my ideas, and I went and I found the actual moment in the version history where I first started writing about it. So I'm scrolling up and I found it was July 22nd, 2017 at 2 a.m. in the morning. I had the idea that it eventually turned into Ironlights, and I was so excited about it that at 2 a.m. I turned on my phone and opened my idea documents and started writing it all down. But the caveat there is that it was so different from the game that you see now. It was more of like a martial arts fist fighting kind of game. The code name for a very long time was shadow boxing, because the idea was like you'd sort of be fighting in real world space in real time, but your shadow would have its own body that would sort of follow you as best it could, and that was to kind of represent what became the like slow-mo physics factors in the existing Ironlights. I did prototype something like that, but it rapidly got put away in favor of something much more like what you see now, with the weapons and sort of the melee happening in slow-mo, the one-sided combat, all of that. So yeah, it was a long time ago that it first started.
Part of me still likes the concept of no weapons and just punching your opponent to death.
Oh, I know.
But
actually,
I can see how that's not going to stand much of a chance to get in the game.
Oh, for sure. And a lot of players, I've gotten several requests for like a gauntlet weapon, something that's like basically just a fist, so that you can still fight in that style. But the truth of the matter is, I prototyped it, and your real world reach, especially if you're somebody who's a kid or doesn't have a great reach naturally, it's so limited that to be able to fight effectively like that, you have to get way, way, way up in the opponent's face. And I think that's probably accurate for real world boxing and for martial arts, but in VR it feels quite uncomfortable. And so I did have a weapon that was supposed to be something like fist fighting, but I kept extending it until it became the Katars, and that evolved into the current ninja class. So in a way, that the ninja is meant to be that sort of the extended fist fighting character.
Although I have felt that from my own personal attempts that ninja isn't very good at doing a punching kind of motion, because its refresh is a little too far back to go for a stab.
Yeah, and that that is a kind of a response to what people have been saying. The feedback that we got from players after the ninja had been in the game for a while. If you made the ninja more viable with punches, and sort of you pull back a little bit and you can refresh the weapon for another punch, then we found that it almost becomes too effective. That being able to just put out punches left, right, it ended up feeling less fun and less skill based for most players than the way we currently have it now, where you can kind of do a stabbing motion, but it's not as favored as a more of a swinging side angled attack. So, that is sort of one of the awkward things about the Ninja in its current state. Um, and we're trying to be cautious, especially adding new weapons, to not produce anything that's not fun to defend against. So it's something that we've sort of kept in mind as we've evolved the game since then.
Yeah, I will say Ninja is definitely the class that gets a lot of hate where from people trying to defend against it. I think a lot of it comes down to the psychology of hearing the hit sound 100 times more than you have for other classes.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So I think we're waiting to get into the match with Somebody's Mom and King Charizard. I think that possibly they still need to send the code for their match, the private code, to Proximo to make sure that we can get in there. So if you guys are hearing this, Somebody's Mom, I know that you've got the stream open. Oh no, sorry. It looks like they have sent it, so we'll be joining them as soon as we can. Okay, so it sounds like we might have missed one of the match, or they might have started without us, but we are now hopping in. And it looks like we have a duelist mirror match on the new Hazy Rain stage. Somebody's Mom starting off with a bit of an advantage against King Charizard there in the red.
I will say the rainy stage is definitely my favorite. One of
I'm glad to
my
hear that.
one of my favorite things to do with it is at the start try to put my weapons or a shield above my head like I'm trying to shelter from the rain.
we I think that that's something that we've always wanted to encourage, is kind of using the weapons as props and things like that, sort of act stuff out.
I
Man,
speaking of,
this
I
attack.
remember I remember seeing someone use use the knight's greatsword almost like a guitar,
Oh
clip
yeah,
once.
I actually think that might. Well, there's at least one of our AI bots that does that with the as on the Ninja. I think they called it a Qatar hero. In any case, we had a bit of a network hiccup there, but King Charizard coming in for a bit of revenge here. But Somebody's Mom, so far from the attacks that we've seen so far, the defining feature has been some really incredible moment-to-moment defense with the rapier there from Somebody's Mom, barely letting any hits through. And we're seeing that again here. In this case, King Charizard is able to land one big headshot, but Somebody's Mom is really showing some fantastic defensive moves with the duelist there.
Also, once again, people throwing their shields away.
That is something of a tradition in the duelist mirror matches, at least among some of these high skilled players. And it adds a lot of flavor, I think, to make it just sort of a straight fencing match. You really need that buckler if you're going to be fighting other classes, especially those that have two blades. But in this case, Somebody's Mom showing that she doesn't need it, that she's able to block those attacks very well. Gives a little bow and is going to come in, looks like to try to finish it off. Doesn't quite land it. King Charizard coming in to get a last couple hits of his own, but also is able to, Somebody's Mom able to block it, and then goes in for an almost around the back hit and gives another bow of victory. Congratulations. That was truly an excellent little bout of fencing that we saw there, I think.
I will say I have seen, especially in unbalanced matches where one person has a lot more skill than the other or is higher ranked, a lot of the times duelists throw away their shields for either an extra challenge or just to simply
Oh, for sure.
have some fun where possible, depending on what their opponent's playing, of course.
Yeah,
But
especially if it's an unranked match or, like as you said, a very imbalanced match. But yeah, it is also. I think we see it there, and we see it in the very evenly matched duelist mirror matches. Um, Second round has just started, and Somebody's Mom, I'm assuming the duelist was banned there and is now switching to the Reaper. Um, in those first attacks, does not get nearly the same level of advantage that they got with the duelist mirror match. So we're going to have to see, when you're able to ban these classes in these best of three matches, it shows that you have to have some depth, that you can't just be a master of a single main class. And so I think it really matters how many hits somebody's mom is able to land with the scythe there.
That actually always annoys me a lot because I've actually noticed that charging up a very small amount is usually almost pointless because it resets your energy regen and it also hardly even gives you that much energy in the first place.
That's
So
true.
all it ends
But
up doing is resetting. I suppose after you've finished an attack where you've hit your opponent, you could do a brief one, which is I think what they were actually planning here. Because
that's exactly what I
after
was going to
using an
say.
attack and spending your energy regen gets reset.
Yeah, so once it's reset anyway, I think some players they charge up a little bit because if they are confident the opponent's not going to attack them, then they feel like now, I'm not losing anything to my energy regen rate. I'm getting a little bit of free energy, and the vulnerability cost I incur is going to charge back, get healed over time as well. Um, the other potential reason that a player I think might try to do those kind of tiny charge ups in the middle of the defense would be if they're trying to bait out an attack from the opponent. If they're trying, to make it look like they're doing a bigger charge up and hopefully get the opponent to attack, but they're going to cut it off early. Sometimes I've seen that used to good effect. And somebody's mom is trying to do a really clever thing here of firing the ranged attack and then going in for the melee attack such that they'll land at the same time. Doesn't look like King Charizard is falling for it, though. Over the course of these back and forth, somebody's mom is maintaining a significant advantage. Looks like, hopefully she can keep the shield up because, if she's going to win, she's going to need that. But so far has managed to pull off the defense against that tricky duelist. And yeah, that coming in from all different sides with the scythe, getting that big blade around the opponent's defenses, that can be tricky in its own right. These are both classes that are, as you described before, I believe, they're more about getting around the opponent. With the flail, you were talking about the Crusader before. They're not the kind of classes that usually try to just break through the shields. Instead, they're the ones that can just avoid them entirely and try to land the hits. And so this is a bit of a slower match than we've seen other cases where both players are actually managing really good defenses, and yet hits are consistently getting through. And somebody's mom is more slowly but surely taking the lead here. And they're right there again, getting a nice headshot with that overhead scythe swing. We're also seeing somebody's mom doing a lot of interesting ranged attacks with the scythe. Sometimes that can be very easy to block, but she's trying to mix it up by attacking from two angles at once, shoot this kind of more surprising hits, and is now charging up and trying to do significant damage to get back that vulnerability, but doesn't quite get it all back. So it remains to be seen how much King Charizard is going to try to aggressively capitalize on that. He might not be able to afford to, in which case the charge ups are just kind of a good cost-free aggressive move from somebody's mom. Yeah, and King Charizard going in for the attack is able to land a couple hits, and they're doing a lot of damage because of the vulnerability somebody's mom has incurred from charging up. But it's not enough to even get through all of that vulnerability. And now somebody's mom has to be feeling very confident. Going for the really aggressive strategy is kind of a high risk, high reward move. And in this case, it paid off. So somebody's mom taking the semifinals win and is going to be moving on to the finals, a lock for the prize now, that $30 cash prize, as well as the major league, graduating to the major leagues. King Charizard, though, like Chip, is not out of this tournament yet, but is going to be moving on to our bronze match. And that's going to be the match that finally determines who is in and who is out of the top three.
They usually, unless one player is able to pull out some very good energy management, usually it can be within one or two attacks each way. It's often very clear as to who's got the advantage and is most likely to win overall. But I have had games myself where I've managed to pull it back miraculously just by working with the projectiles more and being able to out and being able to manage my energy better than them and essentially
Yeah.
getting more attacks and damage than them.
Yeah, I've done the same thing too, especially when I'm fighting against players who, honestly, I know are more skilled than me in the sort of moment to moment blade, fighting back and forth. In those cases, I try to regain an advantage with clever energy management, trying to shoot harassing attacks, trying to make sure that, even if their attacks are effective, that they just can't do many of them. And I think that there's kind of a pattern that we see in these matches where one player will take a slight advantage, and then players kind of change their strategy after they see that somebody's ahead. And usually it's either player switching to a more high variance strategy, like a more risky strategy, which in some cases means trying to shoot more ranged attacks, because if you can get some of those through, you can claw back your advantage. Or it means charging up a lot more and a lot more often than normal, because you need to be able to strike back and, or kind of get what's the word I'm looking for? Like a virtuous cycle, a positive feedback loop. That's the term. Where you're able to hit players enough that you're able to regain your vulnerability, that you're able to charge up more and just keep this wave of attacks going. And I don't know, some of the most interesting matches we see, I think, are when both players switch to that high variance, really aggressive, really risky strategy at the same time. Whew. So Proximo's asking if we want to do bronze first or the first place match first. I'd be happy with either. I guess let's go for let's do the finals first, if those players are okay with it, just to give a little bit more time. You could justify it either way, but I always figure if we're going to give a better rest to one of those matches or the other, I'd rather give the rest to the ones that are that still have that prize on the line. It's interesting because the finals gets to determine who's number one, but the bronze match here is in some ways the match with more on the line, the more at stake, because only one of those players is going to win the prize and move on to the major league. Though, of course, keep in mind, these tournaments, we're trying to run them a couple times a month, and you're always welcome to rejoin. So even if you're not able to make it to the top three, as most players are not, the top three in this tournament will never be able to participate in a minor league tournament again. They've graduated to the major leagues, so you don't have to worry about them. It's a good idea to sign up for the next tournament and try your hand at it once more.
I think there is one concern I saw tossed around the Discord is how the value of the minor league title degrades over time, because more and more people get it, and the more and more exceptionally good players already have it and hence can't fight for it anymore. So
yeah, and
you end
if it
up with a
gets to a
gap.
point, if it does get to a point where there's just a flood of minor league champions, we're always welcome to or considering ways that we can adjust or change things. But it is worth remembering players do drop out over time as well. So what we're trying to keep an eye on is the number of players that we have participating in the major league tournaments, and if that ever gets too big or too small, we'll change it up. But until then, I'm actually very happy to have an increasing number of minor league champions. And the minor league, it's really there to provide a means for new players to show up and have a chance, have a real shot at winning that prize, even if they're not really like the very tippy top of the league. And it looks like the finals match is now beginning. We have somebody's mom and the W in purple and white, respectively.
I think she's gone forward to give him a high five, but the camera wasn't able to follow.
Oh, that is a bit of a shame, but she is back and in place, and it looks like is this duelist versus knight on the W side?
I can't tell. I think some small problems.
It's either duelist versus duelist.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're on one of the brightest stages here, and the W has taken the very shiny alabaster and silver color scheme. But yeah, it looks like we have that nice duelist mirror match that we saw somebody's mom excel with so much in the previous match. So we'll see what happens here.
Always
Oh, the W.
interesting. The higher we go, the more interesting the matches usually are, because both players have already proven how mighty they are, and we get to see
Absolutely.
multiple people here who have rolled through multiple matches
And
now
that
having
that's
to
I
fight
think,
each
yeah,
other.
that's the glory of some of these tournaments where you have two players and they both can say that they've made it through two or three previous opponents, and they've shown that they're up there in the skill level. So the W was able to go in for a really effective first attack and takes the advantage at the beginning there. I think that's especially remarkable because, as you were sort of indicating, we just saw somebody's mom in a duelist versus duelist mirror match with some really incredible defense. And so the fact that the W is able to land the hits means a lot, I think.
It seems to be a whole lot more even. I think Dove might actually have the advantage here.
Somebody's mom, though, is still actually like showing that she's got some really good defensive skills. The W able at the very beginning and the very end of that attack to get some serious hits in. And somebody's mom goes in for the quick attack to try to capitalize on what remains of the vulnerability there. But the W is not going to give her any time to rest there. Is absolutely going to taking out what remains of the vulnerability and probably going to try to put the whole match away. Might even regenerate a little bit more, charge up a little bit more at the end of this. Yep, and the W is not giving any time to rest. Somebody's mom almost and actually there it is. Steps forward a little too far, and with only a sliver of health left, the penalty from going outside of the boundary is enough to shatter her. Still, that was a very exciting first match. I love those duelist versus duelist matches. So it's going to be interesting to see what somebody's mom chooses to ban and if we'll see another duelist from her. Whew. It sounds like there might be a little bit of lag on the stream, but that it sounds like it also might just be a local problem on our end. So it's probably not affecting somebody's mom in the W. So honestly, as long as they're having a nice smooth fight, I am happy to just watch whatever we can. So we'll do our best over here. Also, I just wanted to make a quick shout out to Toaster Chan, who in the Twitch stream says that he has made it to champion rank in the game. So congratulations, Toaster. There are not many players who have managed that. So we've seen him in previous tournaments and has always been a major figure in the community. So congratulations. Great to see that.
He's had to work very hard to get there.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of the comments to that effect. Somebody's mom goes in for the first attack here in the second round against the W's Reaper. Interesting choice. I'm assuming the duelist was banned there and is able to get a couple of hits. So what really matters now is whether the W is able to really land the hits against somebody's mom's duelist. We're seeing some, I think, again, pretty inspired defense, but 3 or 4 hits in a row there were able to land. So it does look like the W takes an initial advantage here. And somebody's mom does that strategic technique we were talking about before of just after an attack doing a quick charge up to get that free energy and give time for the vulnerability to heal.
I'm still a little disappointed though, because so far we've seen. Oh god, he's playing like a guitar. He's playing that side like a guitar, I think, or something. It's
While
really
his
showing
scythe
off now.
gently weeps.
But as I was saying, I'm a little disappointed that we've seen a lot of Duelist and Reaper and the spot of Knight, but honestly, not that many of other classes. We saw that Samurai mirror match, but haven't seen that outside of it. We've seen Crusader twice, Ninja once, and have yet to see a Monk, which actually is not
We did
very
see
reflective of what I usually find in matchmaking.
we did see one monk. Remember the one shooting all the bow and arrow
Oh,
attacks
yes.
at the very beginning. But you're right. The monk tends to appear more often in the lower skill rankings, even though it is we've seen it used to great effect in some of, just recently in the Major League tournament. The W, again, going for an extremely aggressive technique. And this time, somebody's mom is showing some fantastic defensive moves, blocking almost all of those hits. Still, the W knows that they're using almost the last of their health bar to charge up there. Somebody's mom going in for these kind of short, quick attacks and is able to land some, but has to do almost perfect defense. And the W gets one hit there, needs to just get a couple more, gets the second one, oof, and that's the third one just as they run out of energy. And man, I have to say, props to the W for some very cool poses there. Did a nice little swing around as their victory pose.
They spinning repeatedly, hitting the same spot again. I've done many a popular GIF like that, where usually though I usually have to end up swapping my direction for the last hit and catch them totally off guard, but it didn't look like it was needed there.
Well, hitting the same place over and over again, if you can manage it, it is an effective technique now with the new injury system where a spot will get more and more injured and take extra damage over time if you can land it there again and again. So that was working to the W's advantage there. That means that we have decided now our first and second place. That means the W takes first place. Congratulations. The W I have seen in several tournaments in the past and has actually, back when we were doing unofficial tournaments, the W met me in tournaments and defeated me at least a couple of times. So, man, it's great to see him coming out with such a strong win. Somebody's mom as well. I really love seeing that duelist technique and some, I think, very inspired defense. We saw her, really showing her skill in the semifinals as well, and wasn't able to take the first place, but is still with the second place coming out with a prize now, $30 and graduation to the major leagues. Congratulations to both of those players. And now it is time to move on to our bronze match, which is going to be King Charizard versus Chip.
Given everyone's reaction to mentioning Toast in the Twitch chat, I'm going to make everyone freak out by listing everyone I can see, by mentioning everyone I can see who's currently talking in there. So we have Shadow Soul, who I believe won a previous minor league champion. I remember his ninja. We have Stop, who's currently holding our Reaper title belt on the Discord. We have Chip, who was in matches earlier. And we have Boy Gabe, who I believe was intending to be in a tournament, but don't think they showed up, or my brain's being a sieve again.
And every once in a while, I hop on Ironlights and just play some public matches. And the last time I did, I played Boy Gabe a few times in a row and got to chat with him a little bit. And that was good fun. So, hey, Gabe, good seeing you.
I expect you get a lot of people who freak out when they see you online and just end up getting in a match with you.
It tends to be either they have no idea that I'm the developer and I only mention it if it seems relevant to the discussion, or on one or two occasions they've treated me like a celebrity, which feels really nice, and other times it's just like, oh, hey, you, yeah, which I think is also very appropriate because Ironlights is not a huge game. We're a relatively tight community. And I try to, I talk on these streams and I'm on the Discord, at least in the Ask the Devs channel. That remains the only place where I will guarantee that I can answer everything. There's just so much else that I can't keep up with. But yeah, I do try to be available. So it's nice that when I fight people online, they will treat me like a peer, especially because I'm not the best player and I'm not using my magical dev powers to cheat. So.
I still think that would be incredibly funny, and it's been tossed around before, I believe, of just you standing there with two oversized greatswords, one in each hand, and just going, I guess I win then.
No, there's been a lot of really good ideas along those lines. there's several things that I could do and someday will to 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 mess with people or just to have fun with it. But the only tricky thing is that I have to make a special version of the game, a special build to make sure that none of those secret things end up available to other players, because I don't want that to end up like a cheat that's available for multiplayer in game.
Yeah.
Okay, it is time for the bronze match to begin. This is Weighty Chip in yellow versus King Charizard in the red and charcoal. We've seen both of these players perform. We've seen them, all of them have beaten at least a couple of opponents to make it this far. And now they're going to be facing off against each other. And it looks like we have the Samurai versus the Knight.
Different classes.
This is going to be an interesting one because they're both in some way like kind of big sword classes, but the Samurai has sometimes a tough time blocking that Knight just because they have to block with the sort of shield bar that's built into the base of their blade. The Knight, on the other hand, has the two blades, which makes for pretty good blocking, and we are seeing that right here with that hanging guard style from Chip. But the Samurai also is very quick relative to that giant greatsword. So we'll see how it goes. Ooh, Charizard able to get a quick little Samurai ranged attack hit in, forcing an early attack from Weighty Chip. But Chip uses that attack to great effect and almost has Charizard down to half health at this point. Yeah, and that hanging guard effect, it's looking very effective indeed. Hanging guard technique.
For very quick refreshes, but usually hanging guard on Knight gives me a lot of just personal doubts where I'm just thinking, I've broken one blade, do I refresh now and drop my guard, or do I leave myself completely open for when both of my blades break?
Yeah, that is a tricky question I think the Knights are facing. It's sort of like counting the number of bullets left in your opponent's revolver, keeping track of that in your mind. Man, Chip goes in for the melee attack there after King Charizard does a bit of a charge up and lands those big vulnerability hits. King Charizard able to get a really massive headshot for over 1,100 damage there against the vulnerability. Has to feel good about that, but it's not enough to even out this fight at this point. The issue is going to be successfully blocking enough of these attacks and having that almost impermeable defense to make sure that he can survive long enough to get his revenge. Oof. He again goes in, gets a couple of nice hits, honestly, but Chip at this point doesn't care. He's just the juggernaut, and goes in, finishes the fight with that big overhand chop. So congratulations to Chip for taking that first round. King Charizard is going to get to ban a class of his choosing at this point. I'm curious to see what the next matchup's going to be class-wise.
I always enjoy seeing people's different armors and how they evolve their look over time with new cosmetics. For example, Chip has been around for quite a while, yet the fox mask he's using was released in the Reaper update, and the mountain armor was released in the Samurai update, so he's had to change his look at least fairly recently.
It's true, and even the yellow accent color was not available at launch. A lot of these cosmetic options have come out post-launch, and more are going to be continuing. Sorry, we are going to be continuing to add more.
Honestly, it makes my personal situation with my personal cosmetic picks seem almost kind of amusing to me. Essentially, I've gone with a noob armor, as I call it, look, going for the default blue color and the platinum, which is a variant on the standard greys unlocked stripe from the beginning, simply because I just don't feel that the others suit me as well. And it's the same with my choice of armor and helmet. It's all stuff that's unlocked right at the beginning, and I just haven't felt a need to change them.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In Rocket League, I used the standard car with no cosmetic changes at all. But I think I need to talk a little bit more about this match.
Yeah, I'm
We
seeing a
have
lot of. I'm seeing on defense, Charizard is not neglecting to refresh his scythe blade and preferring to rely solely on the bars. It's an interesting strategy, and it generally just depends on how good you are at being able to pull the scythe blade back while
ooh,
maintaining your bars in a decent position.
we just saw a very impactful moment here that might not be obvious to newer players. Um, Chip was able to hit King Charizard with a ranged attack, arresting King Charizard's energy regeneration. So King Charizard decided to go for a melee attack to try to do the same to Chip to make sure Chip didn't get a huge energy advantage. However, Chip was able to block every single one of the melee attacks from King Charizard's scythe, therefore was able to get a huge energy advantage, which they just employed to great effect, and has now it went from looking like an almost even fight to now looking like Chip has a big advantage. And again, this is the bubble match. This is the one that determines who's going to move on to the major leagues and who's going to get that prize versus who's going to be coming back to win it in another minor league tournament. So that may have been our big turning point here. King Charizard, before that point, was able to keep things pretty even with a pretty inspired scythe defense, I believe. Honestly, I think Chip is maintaining this lead and starting to run away with this match primarily because of the really effective energy play and those really effective harassing attacks with the range attacks on that rapier. Those are very fast and very tricky to deal with.
Your list is considered to have the strongest range attack of the game. Personally, I don't find it very fun to use compared to, say, Samurai, but it does definitely feel the most powerful out of all of them.
I have to say, I love using it. But, oh, do you tell me if we are still live? Time
Have
being,
much
I'm
of an
going to
issue?
continue talking because that was the final hit of this tournament. Um, it, it looks like that means that we have our final ranking for those top four. The W taking first place, somebody's mom finishing up and in second place, and then Chip now coming out with the third place and taking that final prize. King Charizard won several rounds, at least two to make it to the semifinals there, and unfortunately has fallen in the bronze match, just barely missing the top three. But King Charizard, you will have another chance at our next minor league tournament. So we hope
What
that we
I'm
will see you
seeing,
again.
what I'm seeing in the Twitch chat is it's definitely our connection to Prox because they're saying that the audio is cutting out.
Okay, well, I hope that everybody heard that. I think we're just wrapping up at this point. But the message is basically congratulations to our top three finishers. Great play from everybody. And we hope that we will see King Charizard again in a future tournament, as well as all of our other competitors. That's it for me. Anything you wanted to say before signing off, Electro?
Other than thanks everyone for showing up, and huge thank you for E to letting me be here. You could say I just would have never imagined I would ever be in a position like this, so it's
Well,
quite the honor.
I appreciate the help and it was great having you.
Thank you.
And with that, the minor league tournament is completed. So we will see you all in another tournament. Bye, everybody.
See ya.